everybody. Welcome to the Philosophical Research Society for Lunar Tarot and the Cards of Psychic Defense with Christopher Marmolejo. This is a four-part series. This is part one. Really excited to have all of you with us today. I'm here in the PRS library. My name is Kristen. Christopher is joining us from San Diego.
From San Bernardino now. I moved. Yes.
We're really excited to be collaborating with Christopher again. Christopher did a presentation here at PRS in the library last December about the Devil card and was also a part of the Los Angeles Festival of Tarot, the first ever Los Angeles Festival of Tarot that happened earlier this year. And we are really excited to be able to collaborate and present this four-part series that when Christopher pitched it, it just sounded so fascinating to me, and it's an aspect and dimension of tarot that was not familiar with at all. So I'm really looking forward to being able to listen in and learn along as well. So I just wanted to share a little bit of housekeeping before I hand things over to Christopher. At this time, it's my honor to hand the floor over to Christopher. Christopher is also the author of The Red Tarot, a decolonial guide to divinatory literacy, which we do carry in the PRS bookstore unless it's sold out. It's been a very popular book. I love it. And so without any further ado, Christopher Marmolejo, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So always I feel like PRS is a second home now at this point. Feel very happy and to be in collaboration and happy to have you all here. So like I teach all the time. Honestly, I'm always teaching like in some form or another, right? And so I'm definitely welcoming your participation, your feedback, your questions and whatnot. Feel free to just like raise your hand on the Zoom thing and like, you can hop on the mic at that point. And like I said today, well, I guess I'll share my screen now. Let me see. Y'all should be seeing my screen and not the one with the notes. Is that all right? All right. So again, Lunar Tarot and the Cards of Psychic Defense. Again, I'm a teacher, a diviner, a prophetess, as I like to say, an authoress, the author of Red Tarot, a decolonial guide to divinatory literacy. Again, and we're gonna focus in on these lunar tarot cards today, talking about the nature of the moon. It's obviously an eclipse today. Okay. So I was like, I don't know why I didn't even like connect that. Um, like you know what I mean? It's just one of those things. So very perfect to be learning about the nature of moon. That's a type of remediation, right? For the eclipse. Maybe you're feeling it. If you know where the eclipse is happening in your chart, feel free to say so. Also, like say hi in the chat. I'd love to just know where you're zooming in from, what your kind of tarot familiarity is, or anything that's related in that regard. It's always nice to know. So we're gonna talk about that, and we're gonna just kind of broadly talk about the like nature of psychological defenses as well. So this is setting the stage, very much a primer to when we dive deep in the rest of the classes with the moon cards. Which are tied to the decans, which we'll explain what that is today. Okay. But then so like Moon in Taurus 2 corresponds with the Six of Pentacles, and we'll talk about certain psychological defenses that emerge with that, as well as like then Moon in Cancer 3, the Four of Cups, and on. We're gonna be breaking these things down, right? And then like on. So of course, no pressure, but we really do encourage you to join for the full package. I just think it's a full treatment. If you work with tarot yourself or have any client practice or give any readings to any sort, like this definitely will be a boon. I will say these moon cards have been so primary when they show up for me in a session. Um, with my own, I have my moon in Libra 1, which is a Two of Swords as well, and it's really rich, honestly. All right. Um, and so, welcome Renee from Memphis. Oh my goodness, I love it. In LA, welcome Kina. If I'm saying that right, new to learning tarot, love it. RJ, welcome from the Bay. Yes, yes. Cheers. Happy to have y'all here. Welcome, welcome. All right, as you keep saying hi, saying where you're from, I'm gonna keep us going. All right. And so as always, I do invite you to feel comfortable in your body. Yes, to stay hydrated. Hopefully you got some rest last night. Hopefully the eclipse isn't has been revelatory. All right. I'm burning up some Palo Santo for us in the moment and invite us all to just take a nice deep breath in and out. We just offer up this sacred smoke to the moon, to the mother, to the great holy mother, to the divine mother that's birthing all creation, to the progress and the evolution of our lives, to water, to the four directions and the four elements and the threads of time. I invite you to just take another nice deep breath in and out. All right. All right. And so let me see. So the prism of grace on the nature of the moon. So this is from Valence. I've got some more notes. So I'll read this on screen first. The moon, lit by the reflection of the sun's light and possessing a borrowed light in a nativity, right, in a natal chart, indicates a man's life, the body, the mother, conception, beauty, appearance, sight, living together as a legitimate marriage, nurture, the older brother, housekeeping, the queen, the mistress of the house, possessions, fortune, the city, the assembly of the people, gains, expenses, the household, voyages, travel, wanderings, of course, not straight pathways because of Cancer, right? The moon rules the parts of the bodies as follows: the left eye, the stomach, the breasts, the breath, the spleen, the dura mater, the marrow, as a result, causes dropsy and moist syndromes. Of materials, it rules silver and glass. It's of night sect, green in color and salty in taste. Right. So maybe like, I remember a lunar eclipse a couple years ago, my brother had like all of a sudden like this eye issue on his left eye, and I was like, there it is, right? Like this lunar eclipse thing happening, right? Um, all of these things. So, in artistic renderings, the moon is always typically shown as a royal counterpart to the sun, right? They're depicted pretty much always crowned alongside their domicile. The sun gets depicted as the king, and the moon is some type of queen or female ruler. Abu Mashar tells us that the moon is of the nature of coldness and wetness, right? When we get into these kind of humors, these temperaments, right? That the temperament is phlegmatic, right? But that the nature changes based on the phase. All right. So also, um, again, if you know your moon placement, feel free to put that in the chat. And also, if you know your moon phase in your chart, feel free to put that in the chat. Okay, I've got a balsamic moon myself, so she's a crone moon, as I like to say. Um, the moon does produce kind of its own heat and light according to Abu Mashar, right? Which is important because it kind of shifts from valence here, which is like that it does have its own like its own light source. It's not just a reflection of the light of the sun, right? Medieval Arab scientists believe that the moon did give off its own light and that you could like they would write that you could tan by the light of the moon. This kind of soft lunar pallor on the skin. I think of kind of Wednesday Addams in that way, right? Um, that it had that effect, right? So it did absorb the sun's light, it did reflect it, but it did have its own luminescence, right? Its own luminance, its own shine, right? That even if the sun were to disappear, the moon would still give off some light, obviously not as much, but its own, right? And in contrast, the sun's light is thought to be malefic, harmful, whereas the moon's light is benefic, right? I mean, thinking about the difference of like you can't stare into the sun, right? But you can stare at the moon, right? You can moon gaze. You can't really sun gaze without having some detrimental effects, right? And so given that the rays of the moon are positive, aspects of the moon become beneficial aspects within the natal chart, right? Conjunctions with the moon are very beneficial, are always auspicious, meaning if you have a planet joined your moon in the chart or in transit chart, right? Love to see it. Okay, Capricorn moon in the fifth house, balsamic. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's like stay hydrated, right? Definitely that moon is doing powerful crone magic, ancient magic. I love that. Um, all right, and so just shouting that out. I love a Capricorn moon. which we'll talk about. So a moon, maybe you often hear that the moon is like a mirror, right? But really, there's a sense of it being somewhat more like a crystal, like a prism is perhaps more of an accurate word than a strict mirror, right? In that it gathers all of the lights, all of the rays of the other planets, and it's transmitting them to Earth. Okay. So it's like the moon is what allows those planetary influences to come to Earth, to be felt on Earth, right? So, like in electional astrology, when you're choosing a date to do things, right, you're always noting the moon. The moon is primary in an election. If you have everything lined up, but the moon is in a bad position, it will mess it up because that moon is that like final like crystal harness transmitting everything, translating everything, right? And so Abu Mashar says that the moon is the protector of the rays, right? So it's not just transmitting the the intelligence and the light of all of the other planets, but it's tempering them. Okay, let me see the chat again. Sag Moon, okay, in the eighth house, there is a Sag Moon card. Perhaps if you know it, you can also say that. Also balsamic. Come on, I'm a balsamic moon. We got all the balsamic moons. Eighth house, Gemini moon, 11th house. Okay, eighth house is also intense. Okay, you're a Taurus rising like me, so I love that. Um, Gemini moon. Okay, great. I just watched Twinless, also speaking of Gemini, with Dylan O'Brien. Anyhow, last night's it was very Gemini moon. Anyways, and so, this aspect of the moon that is tempering, right? That is like kind of filtering. There's the theory that like the rays of the sun and Mars and Saturn, the malefic planets, would just completely overwhelm us if it wasn't for the moon. So the moon gets set as this guardian of humanity, this custodian of the earth, right? So of course we're feeling a malefic influence of Mars, for example, but like it's only a fraction of what Mars is capable of unleashing because the moon is this buffer. The moon is taking the brunt of the harm and just like tempering it down, downscaling it for us to feel those effects, right? And so that um ends up becoming tied to today and on another level, but like in terms of the moon is often overlooked for, but is an important aspect of protection magic, right? In that way. The moon isn't just emotions or healing. Of course it is, right? But it's the magic of protection. It shelters, it protects, and it wards one from danger, right? It's the light illuminating the dark and keeping the monsters at bay, right? Which we kind of talk about with the Seven of Swords and Nine of Wands. We'll get to that in a sense. But it's this guide for the seafarer to find their way. It's a companion of poets. It's a companion of all those who are staying awake at night, right? The moon rules obviously the sign of Cancer, right, which is referred to as the nurturer, right? And perhaps more apt to see them as shelters, right? This Cancer. Also, RJ, gibbous moon, we love it. Okay, I love it. Waxing gibbous moon, right? Okay, great. And so like giving us some light. The thing too about your lunar phase is depending on how much of that moonlight, right, is in the sky at that time of your birth. So balsamic moon, it's like this tiny little sliver, right? And depending obviously if you're born during at day or night, the sun or the moon becomes the destined light, as it were, right? That primary celestial body. Are you ruled by the king? Or are you ruled by the queen? Right? So perhaps you can also put that in the chat if you know, right? The time of birth. Um, and so that again, that sheltering aspect of the moon, this guarding capacity, this protective capacity, right? Cancers are like fierce defenders of their loved ones, right? They're unwavering in that way. So the moon is the most protective planet. Some people think of Mars, right? But and I mean, Moon and Mars are of night sect. They're on that kind of like night team. But Mars is domination. Mars is aggressive defense, right? Mars and does have some what is the term? Why am I blanking on the term? Exorcism type of work that you can do with Mars, right? And like certain like martial stars and whatnot, but protection before that happens, right, comes under the auspice of the moon, right? And so there are many elections for in which you build houses and you're guarding, warding the home using the moon. And then on the converse, right, these things work the other way, where you're unlocking doors, you're gaining access because of the moon. Right? So the moon can be called upon as this key to open up those protections or not. So, again, she is queen of the night, cue Whitney, right? Um, and so the queen of all the nocturnal planets, again, is governs Cancer, is exalted in Taurus, right? Is exiled in Capricorn. Shout out Capricorn moon. All right. And then fallen, of course, in Scorpio. Right. So, I mean, and across like in electional astrology, across poems and politics and medical treaties and random even geographic literature, there's like you will see a void when the moon is in Scorpio. Right. The moon also obviously popularizes astrology. I'm pretty sure like we're all like, oh, it's an eclipse, or you go out, you may not be able to see the other planets. I mean, you'll see the sun, obviously a sun, not a planet, but um, we all see the moon, right? We all see the moon. That transmits us that it's popular in that way, right? And so, excuse me. And anyhow, again, that's not saying that Scorpio moons are quote unquote bad. I mean, there's challenges there, but like this sense of choosing a date electionally for like avoiding that, right? It doesn't translate to the natal consideration in that same way. So again, the moon is benefic in nature, so it influences, it mediates, it influences the malefics, right? While Mars harms the moon tempers Mars. So there's also like how is the moon impacting other planets, and then how do other planets impact the moon, right? Okay, we'll keep going. So we've been saying your moon sign, okay, and then do y'all know the associated tarot card? No? Okay. I see two no's. Some people have their cameras off, so I can't see, but I saw two no's. Do you know the degree of your moon? If you know, you can listen. No. Um, I'm like my throat today. Um, the phlegmatic quality of the moon with the solar eclipse. Anyhow, uh, if you know the degree of your moon, you can put that in the chat and you can be looking. Okay, like which is you can do that, and I can tell you your the tarot card associated, but you got to know the degrees, okay? Otherwise, I can give you like three possible options, okay? Um, Scorpio moon conjunct Mars, born at night. Oh my goodness, wow, very powerful. 21 degrees. So Renee, um, I mean, it seems like you might know, but in case you don't know, okay, no, the card associated with the tarot card associated with your moon and your Mars would be the Seven of Cups. Okay, the Seven of Cups. Um, third degree of Sagittarius, right? Okay, so that is the Eight of Wands. Okay, the Eight of Wands for your moon. All right, and if y'all are looking, like, feel free to put it in the chat, and I'll say I can tell you at any point. Okay. I teach a year-long, 2-year-long class on the decans, where we go and lay out the cards, the tarot cards of the chart, right? And we walk through the decans together, which will explain what those are exactly. And this is how I'm getting these associations. And we read the chart and we read the cards. And so it's a very great class. It's in session right now. I only open enrollment every other year.